We've been talking a lot about Queen Elizabeth's Diamond Jubilee. It's a year-long celebration. It reaches its peak next month.
The Queen represents a dynasty that goes back nearly 9.5 centuries. Mark Phillips found out a few things about one of her ancestors by going through his old home.
This is a Jubilee year in which everything royal is being celebrated. 60 years of the Queen on the throne, the increasing role of the princes, Charles, William, and Harry, and of course, Kate. But you probably haven't heard the one about the Mad King and the bathtub in the kitchen. Here's a hint. It happened here 200 years ago at this small royal palace in West London. There are bigger and better known royal palaces in Britain. Buckingham Palace, the Queen's London digs, Kensington Palace, where William and Kate will live, and where Diana lived between her divorce and her death. But a little palace at Kew in West London may provide a better glimpse of how the royals have lived through the ages. This is where the beleaguered King George III lived more than 200 years ago, the King George who lost America to those uppity colonials. This wax bust is all that remains of the poor king now. No sign of the famous blood disorder that made him famously mad. But details of his troubled life have been discovered here in the kitchen.
When we first came to this kitchen, the place was absolutely full of junk.
Because Kew Palace was abandoned by later royals, the Georgian kitchen block had become an untouched junk room, which is why it's so interesting. It's now been restored and is a window into the past. One of its secrets, a tin bathtub for the king in the kitchens where the hot water was.
Wedged up right inside the chimney was this strange-looking object, which turned out to be the bathtub. George III, because he had bouts of illness, was prescribed baths as part of his treatment.
When we visited 3 months ago, so he would come in here and get in the tub? The kitchens were a construction site. Today they reveal the latest modern appliances of the 1700s. Your handy bread oven, the barbecue that could take a whole sheep, charcoal stoves that put out huge amounts of heat whether you wanted them to or not. Food historian Mark Mentonville has brought the kitchens to life, dressed in period garb, cooking period grub, fit for a king.
On this day, the king would have started, like every meal, with soup. We made a barley broth, and then it moves on to all the other dishes. There's some roast woodcock, there's roasted mutton.
The restoration snapshot is of a particular date, 6th of February, 1789. The day King George III is said to have emerged from his first, but not his last, bout of madness.
On that day, he was better. That's quite important, not just for the nation, but for the cooks. While you're an invalid, you eat invalid food. You might even be so ill that you're being spoon-fed. On the 6th of February, we like to say the king got his fork back. He ate a proper dinner.
Does that do? Does that do? I'm the king!
The award-winning movie The Madness of King George showed he was a hard guy to cater for. And these kitchens showed just how hard a job it really was.
It's a way of looking at the social history of a palace. I mean, you know, the life of kings and queens is not that accessible to all of us. We don't all understand it. But when you walk into a place like this, you can think, well, this is where people worked, and it helps bring to life that royal court.
The royal kitchens have always been a labor-intensive place. Not a problem if you're a royal and have lots of labor. For CBS This Morning, I'm Mark Phillips in London.
The stories continue and continue and continue.
I know. Did I miss who they're cooking for? They're doing all the cooking. Who gets to eat it? Is it just...
Are you hungry? You want some mutton?
I'm just
Because Charlie
curious.
made a face when he heard mutton. He went,
No,
No, in the part where they said an oven big enough to cook the sheep, and I think I'll pass, but I'm still trying to figure out.
they were recreating
is Mark
it.
still there?
It's part of the restoration.
Okay.
They're recreating it in one of the meals that they believe would have been eaten on that day, on that February 6th.
I'm still trying to figure out who gets to eat the food. That's all. I was curious.
Okay, can somebody get Gail a
Can we
snack?
just get the answer to that before the show's over? I'm very curious.